Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Petal Panther Football Show. Alongside head coach Marcus Boyles, I'm Mark Easley. Thanks for tuning in this week. This past weekend, the Panthers took on the Big Easies. They made the trip down I-59 to New Orleans to take on Brother Martin, the Crusaders. Their first regular season game, but the Panthers third, and the Panthers played well. Their best overall effort so far in the early part of the season. Came out with a 40-14 win. And Coach, I know you had to be pleased with the way they played, but going into that with no real film to look at Brother Martin on, going on tendencies from past years with the same coach being there a number of years, there wasn't a lot to look at for this year's squad, so you had to have some concern right there.
You're exactly right. Louisiana starts a little bit later than we do, so we'd played a couple of games, and this was going to be their first game, so it was definitely a concern. We had some film from last year, as you mentioned, and just tried to go off what they did last year, and luckily for us, they hadn't changed a whole lot, so it was pretty much the same thing. But I thought I had a great week of preparation last week, getting ready for New Orleans, and just a unique experience as we went down there. But I thought our kids handled it really well.
And talk about going on the road, first time for a lot of these first-time starters to be on the road, and they answered the bell and answered that challenge with outstanding answers. I think where they passed with flying colors.
They did. Like you said, it's the first time to go on the road for this team, and then to play at 2:30 on Saturday afternoon. I thought we handled that very well, and something we talked to our kids about that. Because we used to practice around 2:30 or 3, but we told them, this time it's going to be a little bit more than a practice. They're going to keep scoring, it's going to be, but we told them once it's kicked off, it's 48 minutes of football.
Yeah, and that's what I'd made and mentioned during the broadcast is during normal practice time, but like you said, it's a difference when you cut on the lights, so to speak, and tee it up and kick it off in a real game. I think I know what the big difference was, though. You told us before the game, it's the first game you have coached in sunglasses.
In sunglasses. I know that was, I've been doing this 29 years now and never coached in sunglasses, so I thought that was pretty neat. Got to do something that probably won't get to do again.
But between the lights, under the lights later on this week, I don't know if we'll see the sunglasses or not, but the guys really played well. I thought the defense got after them really, really well, and the offense was very efficient again.
Exactly right. I know our defensive coaches told us after the game that they looked up and the first quarter's almost gone because then the offense had kept the ball. We scored, and I think they turned it over or something, and then we scored again. So sometimes the best offense is the best defense is a good offense, and certainly our defense played well. But I thought for me the first time, I thought we put it all together on offense for a complete game.
Yeah, they sort of played into our strategy anyway. When we win the toss, we like to receive the football. They won the toss deferred, so it's just like we had won it. We took the opening drive, 64 yards, and scored, and then you alluded to the turnover on the on the kickoff. Special teams forced that fumble and were able to score again right there, a 69-yard drive after we had a penalty against us, but two good 60-plus yard drives to start the game.
And that's what you want. When you go on the road, everything's different. When you go on the road, then it's the daytime game. You want to start out fast, and I thought we did, and I thought we took a little bit of wind out of their sails, so to speak, also by starting fast on offense. And like I said, big turnover on special teams, something I think that's a couple we've done this year, so really pleased with our special teams also Saturday.
Yeah, defense, two possessions that we had to defend, had two turnovers, interception on their first drive, fumbled the kickoff on the next drive, and then just like a turnover, we had back-to-back turnover on downs where we forced them to give us the ball, and we're able to, that first time, drive it a short field of 37 yards and drive it in for the score.
Yeah. Again, our defense really stepped up, fourth downs, made some stops, and our defense sometimes a bend. They give us some yardage sometimes, but when it gets in the red zone, they do a good job of buckling down and getting us the ball back.
All right, in that second quarter, we're up 20-0 after the first quarter of play when those three consecutive drives of touchdowns did hit the left upright on the last point after attempt, so that left the score 20-0 after one quarter of play. And then our next possession in that middle of the second quarter, on our end of the field, had a fake punt, and I didn't mind the call because we were really dictating the game. Some people might question, well, the position on the field, but they stuffed us there, but our defense held them on the 1 yard line and took over again on downs.
Yeah, probably should have called the fake punt off because I can't remember what happened. They had a heat timeout, I believe what it was, and so I think they knew something was up because we got out there lined up, and then they called the heat timeout, and so we, as coaching staff, we talked about it. Me and Coach Pyatt, Keith Pyatt, who kind of runs the punt and punt return for us, he said probably should have called it off because they knew something was up with the way because we huddled. That's what it was. We huddled, and so hindsight being 20/20, we probably should have called it off. But if they don't call the heat timeout, I'm good with it, whether we get it or not get it. And our defense stepped up. They stopped them on the 1 yard line, so I was pleased with that too.
Yeah, they bailed us out. We were able to move it out a little bit and punt it away. And that did lead to their one score in the last minute of the first half. Again, their guys, you look at them coming on the field, and I was impressed with how they looked on the hoof, because they had some good-looking kids, and that quarterback, their senior returning quarterback, Mr. Pierce, he was a good one.
He was. Quarterback was a really good football player, could throw the ball well, was athletic, and then like you said, they had a couple of big tight ends. I don't remember their number right now, but they had a couple of big, good-looking tight ends. Their left tackle was a big, good-looking kid, so they had some good-looking players, and I think part of it, us on our third game, them on their first game, some of that played in the, helped us out, obviously, but I think our kids played really well the first half.
Went into the locker room leading 20-7. The Panthers had looked good in the first 24 minutes of play. Let's take a look at those highlights of the first half at this time. to the Petal Panther football show. The Panthers went into the locker room leading 20-7, and you had to feel pleased the way you played. Heat, was that a factor in the afternoon game, and some of the things you discussed in the locker room? Go over that with us.
Yeah, you know, I didn't think it was. I thought our kids were handling it really well, and then we get to the locker room at halftime, and those big guys are getting those shoulder pads off, and they're just stretched out because it is different. You practice at 2:30 or 3, but you know from being a coach, you put just a little bit more energy and effort into a real game, and so I think we had expended a lot of energy that first half. Luckily for us, we were ahead by 2 touchdowns, so I felt good about that. Our defense hadn't played a lot of snaps the first half, so I felt good about that. And but our kids handled it well, got Gatorade in them, had some bananas and that kind of stuff for them. So our kids recovered well, but that was a concern. But at the same time, we had to feel like we were probably in a little better football condition, game shape than they were because it was our third game. So I felt like, our kids are tired, but I know their kids are tired too.
And their defense had been on the field a long time in that first half too.
Yeah.
Panthers kicked off to start the second half, and the defense picked up right where they left off. A turnover on downs for the Crusaders, and Panthers were right back in business.
Yeah, again, defense does a great job. Offense comes out. We're executing, and that was a big thing. And from the first 2 games is offense would play one half or the other. We didn't play the first half and didn't look good the second half, or not look good the first half and play good the second half. But I think that first drive for offense, and we continued to play well at a high level of efficiency. Yeah,
and really, in my opinion, the only mistake Jordan Wilson made the whole game was on that first drive offensively in the second half. Underthrew Deuce Watts just a little bit, and they had an interception deep in their own territory, but he leads him enough. That's a touchdown. But really, Jordan played well, except for that one throw.
He did. He played extremely well, and that one he just left it just a little bit short. And we've kind of been on him a little bit about giving Deuce a chance to make a play, because the first game he overthrew him so bad.
Yeah.
Well, this time he underthrew him just a little bit. But and you're right. That's the only. Really, he had a couple of balls the first quarter that he threw bad, but after he threw those 2, Coach Beach pulled him off and said, "Hey, look, we got to get to going a little bit better." And I think he completed about 7 in a row after that. So he played well. He really did.
And speaking of Deuce Watts, he had a big game at the receiver spot. Went up and in some 50-50 balls, went up high and caught him at the high point, and really made some big plays and had some touchdowns as well.
He did. Again, both Watts had big games for us, but Deuce played extremely well. And you can just see him growing as a receiver and getting more confidence as a receiver also.
We rushed the ball well, threw the ball well. You mentioned the other Watts, Fat. He ran the ball really, really well, and that offensive line up front in those heat and that brutal conditions there, they did a great job up front opening up some holes.
They did. Again, definitely pleased with the offensive line. And it always, the offensive line they never get mentioned unless they get a holding call or a jump off side. But they played really well, and it always starts with the offensive line. We really, I thought, dictated the pace of the game and the style of the game with our offensive line.
And really the 4 possessions we had in the second half, the first one was that interception, but the next 3 back-to-back touchdown drives of over 60 yards, one of those being an 88-yard drive. So very efficient offense and doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, again, I keep saying it, but that's been an area of concern, is not playing 2 halves, and so definitely pleased with the way the offense played 4 quarters Saturday.
I gave up a touchdown in the middle of the 4th quarter once the game had been decided, and 40-14 was your final score. And the Panthers improved to 2-1 overall, and they will have one more game before they start region play in a few weeks. But let's look at these second half highlights, and there were a lot of them for the Panthers. Welcome back to the Petal Panther Football Show. The Panthers ended up winning the game 40-14 in New Orleans. Made that first road trip of the year a very successful one. Getting ready for another road trip this week though, but coming out of the game from Saturday, came out healthy, feeling good about the way we played. The players had to feel good about how they played. Fat Watts had a great game, over 100 yards rushing. Deuce, his brother, with a couple of touchdowns. And then, of course, again, Jordan Wilson with a good game at quarterback. So all phases of the game played well, and that's something to build on when you're looking to go between the bricks and face a very talented and inexperienced team, a very talented Laurel Golden Tornado team.
You're right. I thought we played our best game of the year this past Saturday. Now I've got to move on to Laurel. And like you said, it's a dangerous team. It's a team that has lost a couple of games, but they are still Laurel. Yeah. They've got a lot of speed on the field, and we need to, have a great week of practice this week and get ready. And I like playing between the bricks. I mean, it's a tough place to play, but it's a unique place, going over there, the way the stadium is shaped, and the fans are, really into the game. So looking forward to it, but we need to have a great week of practice, I know that.
Another short week, basically. We're playing on Saturday, turn around playing on Friday. So I know coaches are creatures of habit and getting out of routine. How does that play into your practice schedule this week?
We go do things the same way, like we always have. Monday, on Mondays when we come in, we're lifting, we're watching film, and then we go out in shorts and shoulder pads and not a lot of contact, just let the kids get their legs back under them. Then Tuesday and Wednesday are our work days. Thursday just a walk through, and then Friday get ready to play. Yeah.
And it should be a good one. The Tornadoes are 1-2. As I said, lost to a couple of very good teams, but always a scary team with the athletes and the players that they can throw out there with the speed, and they're always huge on both sides of the line, and those linebackers are always fast. So you can't dictate that in practice, and you can see it on film, but until you get out there live, it's just tough to emulate that in practice.
It is, and luckily for us, we have, going back to Hattiesburg, they were really fast on both sides of the ball. Gulfport defensively was fast, offensively not quite as fast, as Laurel's going to be, but we have seen an athletic quarterback in Hattiesburg, and so that helps because Laurel's got an athletic quarterback, and even Gulfport's quarterback was very athletic. So we've seen some. That's a concern when you play an athletic quarterback for the first time. You're concerned about that, but we've seen a couple. Now you just got to do a good job of tackling this quarterback from Laurel.
How tough is it? I know you've been doing this a long time, but when a team plays as well as we did Saturday, you get to enjoy that one maybe a day as a player, but then you got to get back to business. To get your players focused, I guess once you turn that film on and say, hey, look at what we got, it gets their focus pretty quickly.
It does. It does. And we play this tough non-district. We've talked about it before because when we start our district play, it's Pearl, Oak Grove, Brandon, and we got to play 3 weeks in a row. So, that's our focus right now, is telling our guys, hey, we've played a couple of good weeks, but we got to play another one. And when you cut the film on at Laurel, they're very scary.
Yeah, and Coach Todd Breland, very familiar with him, and a good friend of yours, and coached with you and under you for a number of years. So, not a lot of surprises, even though he does have some tricks that he might have up his sleeve.
He does have some tricks, I promise you.
But you know what you're expecting, know what you're getting when you're playing a Todd Breland coach.
It's going to be a well-coached football team that's going to get after it 48 minutes, and he will have some trick plays up his sleeve, but the bottom line is going to come down to blocking and tackling, like it always does.
Yep. And the Panthers did a good job of that this past week, and hopefully this Friday night we'll have another one of those games where we'll come back and say, hey, we had a good job of blocking and tackling and taking care of the football, and all three facets of the game contributed to another Panther win. The kickoff is 7 o'clock this Friday night between the Bricks and Laurel in the historic stadium that hosted the first night game, the first game under the lights in the state of Mississippi. They're in Laurel off of Highway 15, so make the short trip up to help cheer on these Panthers. You'll enjoy the sight and the festivities there between the bricks. That historic stadium has a lot of great players that have played on that field, and who knows, this Friday night there's going to be some more, so come out and help support them as the Panthers look to improve to 3-1, taking on the Golden Tornadoes of Laurel High School. Kickoff at 7 o'clock. Our airtime on Petal Athletics and WMXI Radio will be around 6:40, and we hope you can tune in if you can't be there, but of course come in person. Nothing like the Friday night atmosphere of high school football in Mississippi this Friday night between the bricks. So that'll do it for this edition of the Petal Panther Football Show. For all the Panthers, for head coach Marcus Boyles, and all the Panther Nation, I'm Mark Easley. Until next time, you've been watching the Petal Panther Football Show.